The shovel hit something that wasn't dirt. Emily Carter froze, her breath catching in the cold morning air. She'd come to the old quarry just to be alone, to scream into the wind after the night she'd had. The night her husband Jason looked her dead in the eye and told her he was leaving her for another woman. But now, standing over a freshly disturbed patch of earth, all of that pain was forgotten. Because beneath her feet, barely visible under a thin layer of soil, was a hand. A human hand. And it moved. "Oh my God," Emily whispered, dropping to her knees, clawing at the dirt with bare fingers. "Oh my God, hang on, I've got you." She dug like her life depended on it, ignoring the way her nails tore and her knuckles bled against rocks. Slowly, a face emerged. A man, maybe mid-30s, pale, unconscious, a deep gash across his temple. Emily pressed her fingers to his neck. A pulse, weak, but there. "Don't you dare die on me," she said, voice shaking. "Not today. Not after the night I've had. You're not allowed to die today." She didn't know it yet, but the man she was pulling from a shallow grave was about to turn her entire life upside down in ways she could never have imagined. If you love stories about second chances, betrayal, and love that rises from the ashes, make sure you subscribe, because this one is going to take you on a ride. 3 hours earlier, Emily Carter's world had been perfect. Or so she thought. She'd been married to Jason for 6 years. 6 years of building a life together in the small town of Brookfield. A modest house, a dog named Biscuit, dinners on Friday nights. Emily worked as a nurse at the local clinic, the kind of job where she gave everything to everyone else and came home too tired to notice the cracks forming in her own marriage. That night, she'd come home early with a bouquet of flowers. Their anniversary was coming up, and she wanted to surprise him. Instead, she found Jason in their bedroom with Megan Foster, her own younger sister. "Emily," Jason had said, scrambling for his shirt. "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," Emily had said, her voice eerily calm. The flowers slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Megan, at least, had the decency to look ashamed. Jason did not. "I was going to tell you," Jason said. "Megan and we're in love. We have been for a year." A year. Emily felt the floor tilt beneath her. A year of smiling at her sister at family dinners. A year of Jason coming home late, claiming he was working overtime. A year of being lied to in her own home. "Get out," Emily said. "Emily, be reasonable. This is my house too." "Get out!" she screamed, and something in her voice made both of them flinch. "Take your things and get out before I call the police and tell them exactly what I walked in on." Jason left. Megan left. And Emily sat alone in her living room until 2 a.m, staring at nothing, until she couldn't take the silence of that house anymore. She grabbed her coat and drove, anywhere, nowhere, and ended up at the quarry on the edge of town, where she used to come as a teenager to think. That's where she found him. The man's name, Emily would later learn, was Marcus Reed. But in that moment, lying broken in the dirt, he was just a stranger. And Emily wasn't about to let a stranger die on her watch. She called 911 with shaking hands, then sat beside him, holding his head steady, talking to him even though he couldn't hear her. "You're going to be okay," she said. "I'm a nurse. I've got you. Just stay with me." The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. Emily rode with him to Brookfield General, refusing to leave his side even when the paramedics told her she didn't have to come. "Someone needs to be here when he wakes up," she said simply. "Everyone deserves that." She didn't go home that night. She sat in the hospital waiting room in her dirt-streaked clothes, her hands still trembling. Not just from the cold, but from everything. Jason, Megan, the betrayal, the stranger fighting for his life down the hall. Around dawn, a doctor came out. "Are you family?" "No," Emily admitted. "I just found him." The doctor studied her for a moment. "He's stable, lucky. Another hour out there, and he wouldn't have made it. Whoever did this to him wanted him gone for good. Someone did this to him." The words sent a chill down Emily's spine. "Can I see him?" she asked. The doctor hesitated, then nodded. "He's been asking for whoever saved him, repeatedly, says he needs to thank her." Marcus Reed looked even paler under the hospital lights, bandages wrapped around his head, an IV in his arm. But his eyes, when they opened and found Emily standing in the doorway, were sharp, alert, grateful in a way that made her chest tighten. "You're her," he said, voice raspy. "You're the one who pulled me out." "I just happened to be there," Emily said, suddenly feeling awkward, aware of how she must look. Disheveled, exhausted, dirt still under her fingernails. "You saved my life." Marcus tried to sit up and winced. "Do you know what happened to me? Who I am?" "No," Emily said honestly. "Should I?" And for the first time since waking up, Marcus Reed laughed, a tired, disbelieving laugh. "No," he said. "No, you shouldn't. And honestly, that's the first good thing that's happened to me in years." Emily frowned. "I don't understand." "My name is Marcus Reed," he said. "I run Reed Industries. You might have heard of it. We're one of the largest tech manufacturing companies on the East Coast." He watched her face for recognition and found none, which seemed to please him. 3 days ago, I was supposed to be in New York for a board meeting. Instead, my business partner, a man I've known for 15 years, drugged my drink, drove me 200 miles, and buried me alive in a quarry because I found out he's been embezzling from the company for years. He thought I'd die out there quietly, and he'd take over everything. Emily's mouth fell open. That's insane." "It's true," Marcus said grimly. "And right now, as far as the world knows, Marcus Reed is missing. Probably presumed dead by tomorrow, if my partner has anything to say about it." He looked at Emily with sudden intensity. "Which means right now, you're the only person on earth who knows I'm alive. And I need that to stay that way, for a little while longer." "Why?" "Because if Victor Lane finds out I survived before I'm ready to move against him, he'll finish the job. And next time, he won't be sloppy about it." Emily sat down slowly in the chair beside his bed, her exhaustion forgotten, replaced by something electric and unsettling. "So what? You want me to just pretend I never found you?" "No," Marcus said. "I want you to help me, just for a few days. Let me stay somewhere safe while I figure out my next move. I'll pay you, whatever you need. Name a number." Emily almost laughed. After the night she'd had, her husband's affair, her sister's betrayal, finding a half-buried billionaire in a quarry, this felt like the universe playing some cruel joke. But then she thought about her empty house, the bed she'd shared with Jason for 6 years. The thought of going home to that silence, to those memories, made her stomach turn. "I don't want your money," Emily said quietly. "But I do have a guest room, and nowhere I particularly want to be right now." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. "What's your name?" Emily Carter." "Emily," he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. "Thank you. I mean it. I won't forget this." Neither of them knew it then, But that one decision, one nurse, one quarry, one act of kindness on the worst night of her life was about to set off a chain of events that would destroy 2 people's lives and rebuild 2 others from the ground up. The next few days passed in a strange, careful rhythm. Marcus, discharged against doctor's orders because he refused to stay anywhere his name could be logged into a system, moved into Emily's guest room. He wore one of Jason's old shirts, which gave Emily a petty, satisfying thrill to think about, and kept mostly to himself, working quietly on a laptop Emily didn't ask about. But evenings were different. On the 3rd night, Emily came home from a shift at the clinic to find Marcus in her kitchen, attempting and failing to cook dinner. "What are you doing?" she asked, half amused, half alarmed at the smoke coming from a pan. "Trying to make myself useful," Marcus said, looking sheepish in a way that seemed almost foreign on a man who, she'd since learned from a quick search, was worth over $2 billion. "Turns out being a billionaire doesn't teach you how to not burn eggs." Emily laughed, really laughed for the first time in days, and took the pan from him. "Sit down, I'll show you." And so, in her small kitchen in Brookfield, Emily Carter taught Marcus Reed how to make scrambled eggs without destroying them. He stood close behind her, watching her hands, and for a moment neither of them said anything. The air between them felt charged, full of something neither was ready to name. "Emily," Marcus said quietly, "can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "That night, at the quarry, you looked like you'd been crying before you even found me. What happened?" Emily's hand stilled over the pan. She hadn't told him about Jason. She hadn't told anyone, really. She'd been too consumed with the stranger's survival to process her own pain. "My husband," she said slowly, "was cheating on me, with my sister. I caught them that night. That's why I was at the quarry. I just needed somewhere to think, to scream, honestly." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "That's a special kind of betrayal, the people who are supposed to love you the most." "Yeah," Emily said, blinking back unexpected tears. "Yeah, it is." "For what it's worth," Marcus said softly. "Any man who'd throw away someone like you doesn't deserve a fraction of what he had." Emily turned to look at him, and the way he was looking at her, like she mattered, like she was worth seeing, made something in her chest crack open after days of feeling numb. "Thank you," she whispered. Neither of them moved closer. Not yet. But something had shifted between them, quiet and undeniable, like the first crack of light before sunrise. If you're enjoying this story so far, drop a comment below telling me what you think is going to happen next. I love reading your theories, and trust me, this one's got twists you won't see coming. Over the following 2 weeks, Emily and Marcus fell into something neither of them had a name for. He helped her file for divorce, connecting her with one of the best lawyers on the East Coast, a woman named Rachel Moore, who specialized in dismantling cheating spouses' financial defenses. Jason, it turned out, had been hiding assets, planning to leave Emily with next to nothing while he and Megan ran off together. "Not on my watch," Marcus said, when Emily told him what Jason's lawyer had tried to pull. "Rachel will eat him alive. Let her." True to his word, within days, Jason's secret accounts were exposed, his assets frozen, and Emily walked away from the divorce with the house, half of everything Jason owned, and, most satisfyingly, Jason's prized vintage car, which she promptly sold for a small fortune. "You didn't have to do all this," Emily told Marcus one evening, sitting on her porch as the sun set. "I wanted to," Marcus said. "Besides, it's the least I can do for the woman who saved my life and is currently risking hers by hiding me from a man who tried to bury me alive." Emily laughed, but there was truth in his words that made her chest tighten with worry. "Have you figured out your next move? With Victor?" Marcus's expression turned serious. "I have. Tomorrow, I make contact with my board of directors, quietly, through someone I trust. We're going to expose everything Victor has done. The embezzlement, the attempted murder, all of it. But Emily, once this goes public, everything changes. The press will be everywhere. My world is about to crash into yours, and I won't blame you if you want out before that happens." Emily looked at him, really looked at him, and thought about the man who'd burned eggs in her kitchen, who'd held her hand when she cried about Jason, who'd looked at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. "I'm not going anywhere," Emily said quietly. Marcus reached over and took her hand. "Emily, I need to tell you something. These past 2 weeks, they've been the realest thing I've felt in years. Everyone in my life wants something from me, money, status, access. But you didn't even know who I was when you saved me. You just saved me, because that's who you are." "Marcus, I think I'm falling for you," he said simply. "And I know the timing is insane, and my life is about to become a circus, but I needed you to know that before everything else happens." Emily's heart hammered in her chest. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, she felt something that wasn't grief or anger or exhaustion. She felt hope. "I think," she said slowly, "I might be falling for you too." He kissed her then, soft and slow under the porch light, with the whole weight of everything that had happened, and everything that was about to happen, hanging in the air around them. For a moment, the world was quiet, just the two of them, and the promise of something new. The next morning, everything exploded. Marcus's reappearance hit the news like wildfire. Reed Industries CEO found alive after assassination attempt. The headlines screamed. Within hours, federal investigators were involved. Victor Lane, Marcus's former business partner, was arrested attempting to flee the country with falsified passports and millions in stolen company funds. But Victor didn't go down quietly. In a desperate move, his legal team leaked a story to the press, claiming that Marcus had faked his own kidnapping with the help of an unknown woman from Brookfield in an elaborate insurance fraud scheme, and that this woman, Emily Carter, had drugged and held him against his will before he escaped. Emily's quiet life shattered overnight. Reporters camped outside her house. Her clinic placed her on leave for her own safety. And worst of all, Jason, bitter over the divorce and desperate for relevance, gave an interview claiming Emily had always been unstable and capable of anything. "This is insane," Emily said, pacing her living room while Marcus watched, fury written across his face. "I saved your life, and now I'm being painted as some kind of criminal?" "This is exactly what Victor wants," Marcus said grimly. "He's trying to discredit everything. Me, you, the evidence against him. If he can make this look like some twisted scheme, he might walk away with a fraction of his sentence. Or worse, get the embezzlement charges dropped entirely on a technicality." "So what do we do?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "We fight back, with the truth, all of it." 3 days later, Marcus held a press conference, the first time he'd appeared publicly since his disappearance. Emily stood beside him, her hand in his, in front of dozens of cameras and a wall of reporters. 3 weeks ago, Marcus began, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. I was drugged, driven 200 miles from my home, and buried alive in a quarry by a man I trusted for 15 years, Victor Lane, because I discovered he had been systematically stealing from the company we built together. The room went silent. I would have died there, Marcus continued, if not for this woman. He looked at Emily, and something in his expression made the cameras click furiously. Emily Carter found me, half buried, barely alive, in the middle of the night, on what was already the worst night of her life, after discovering her own husband's betrayal. She didn't know who I was. She didn't ask for anything. She saved my life because that's simply who she is. He turned back to the press. The accusations against her are not just false. They're a desperate, cowardly attempt by Victor Lane's legal team to distract from overwhelming evidence of his crimes. Evidence that includes financial records, surveillance footage from the night of my abduction, and a written confession obtained during his arrest. Gasps rippled through the crowd. As for my ex-business partner, Marcus said, his voice hardening, Victor Lane will face charges of attempted murder, kidnapping, and fraud on a scale that will likely see him spend the rest of his life in federal prison. And I will be personally ensuring that every dollar he stole is returned, with interest, to the people and shareholders he betrayed. He paused, then looked at Emily again, and his expression softened. One more thing. Emily Carter is not just the woman who saved my life. She's the woman I love. And I intend to spend the rest of my life making sure the world knows exactly what kind of person she really is, because she deserves that, after everything. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. And Emily, overwhelmed, felt tears slide down her cheeks as Marcus pulled her close and kissed her forehead in front of the entire world. The fallout was swift and merciless for the people who deserved it. Victor Lane was sentenced to life in federal prison without parole, his assets seized, his name forever attached to one of the largest corporate fraud and attempted murder cases in the state's history. Jason, exposed as a liar and an adulterer on national television, lost his job after his employer, uncomfortable with the negative press, quietly let him go. Megan, humiliated and friendless after her role in the scandal became public, left Brookfield entirely, moving across the country to escape the whispers that followed her everywhere. And Emily Carter went from being a small-town nurse painted as a criminal to being celebrated across the country as the woman who saved a billionaire and asked for nothing in return. Job offers poured in. So did public apologies, from the clinic that suspended her, from neighbors who'd believed the rumors, even from Jason, who Emily never responded to. But Emily didn't care about any of that. What she cared about was the man standing beside her every single day since that press conference, through interviews, through legal proceedings, through every moment of chaos that followed. 6 months later, Emily stood on the same porch where Marcus had first told her he was falling for her. Except now, the porch belonged to both of them, attached to a home they'd bought together just outside Brookfield. Close enough that Emily could still visit the clinic she loved, far enough that the world's noise couldn't reach them. "Nervous?" Marcus asked, stepping out beside her, dressed in a simple gray suit instead of the designer ones the press loved to photograph him in. "A little," Emily admitted, smoothing down the soft fabric of her dress. "Is that normal?" "Completely normal," Marcus said, taking her hand. "But for what it's worth, in about an hour, You're going to walk down that aisle, and I'm going to be standing there, and none of this is going to feel scary anymore. It's just going to feel right." Emily smiled, leaning into him. "How do you know?" "Because," Marcus said softly, pressing a kiss to her temple, "it already does." Their wedding was small, just close friends, Marcus's sister, and a few of Emily's co-workers from the clinic who'd stood by her even during the worst of the scandal. No press, no cameras, just two people who'd found each other in the unlikeliest of circumstances and refused to let go. As Emily walked down the aisle toward Marcus, the man she'd pulled from the dirt, the man who'd given her a new life, the man who looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. She thought about that night at the quarry, the worst night of her life, the night that against every odd had given her everything. 2 years later, the porch had a third voice on it, small, giggling, chasing Biscuit across the yard with a toy truck clutched in his fist. "Theo, slow down!" Emily laughed, catching her son before he tumbled off the step. Marcus scooped the boy up, tossing him gently in the air as Theo shrieked with delight. "He's got your stubbornness," Marcus said, grinning at Emily over their son's head. "And your terrible cooking instincts, apparently," Emily teased, nodding at the small mess of flour on the kitchen counter behind them. "Like father, like son," Marcus laughed, pulling them both close. "Good thing he's got you to teach him." As the sun dipped low over Brookfield, Emily leaned into the two people who had become her whole world. Proof that sometimes the worst night of your life is just the universe making room for the best one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. If you enjoyed this love story, please like, comment, and subscribe to see more heartfelt tales. Your support helps us continue creating the stories that make your heart race.